Warning you about the VIX. And yesterday on Thursday, I went through the crash signals and I showed you a lot of crash signals, and I didn't even show you them all. There are more. But one of the main warning signs we've had is the VIX. It got back above the 50 period. It broke out. It got back above the 50 period. It consolidated. I told you we had the tight bands. We've got the hollow red candlestick that, again, it moved, made a higher low. The S&P made a higher high. It had a discrepancy with the S&P. You had the MACD move into positive territory over here where I have an arrow marked right here. You had it with that breakout. You had the MACD move into positive territory. That tells us volatility is going to surge. Last time we had that happen was back over here. And when that happened, the bottom fell out of the stock market at a very quick 21% decline surrounding the tariffs. You're likely going to see something similar here, either a pullback for one more climax high. We may have just topped, and it is starting to look like that is a strong possibility. Would not rule that out. We had the surge. Did I tell you to watch this trend line right here and the 200 period moving average? We're above the 50 period moving average on the VIX, and when you see that happen, bad things happen on the S&P 500. Let me say it again. When you see the VIX above the 50 period moving average, bad things happen on the S&P 500. You couple that with the positive MACD. Oh my goodness. Again, the surge on the MACD gave us a first leg down, pull back to the 200 period, pull back to the center line on the MACD, and then we got another surge in volatility, and we got that 21% drop on the S&P with the VIX surging. So again, you've got this breakout. Now you're above the 200, could pull back. Some kind of bounce on the S&P 500 off of the 50 period moving average, break it, and then get some kind of bounce. See the S&P down here getting that big ugly candlestick dropping nearly 3%. Bollinger Bands were warning something was getting ready to happen, and now you're seeing the beginning of that. MACD warned you. Signals I went through yesterday warned. Signals now back to bearish. See if we get a big correction, make new highs, or have we topped? We'll be looking for clues. Watch this video all the way through. I've got really important things to share with you. I'm going to show you levels where we might go. Check back Sunday. I got a really important video, and we have things going on right now that could be suggesting a top. Remember, we're hitting my upper channel line now, so we may have topped. We'll be looking for clues. Check back on Sunday. Sorry for posting late today. I had something I had to take care of after the market closed. So sorry for posting a little bit late. The VIX was up 32%, just under 32%. That tells me, based on historical data, that the VIX is telling us that we have a shot of a bounce in the next two trading sessions. Now, we may go a whole lot lower before that bounce happens. We might try to bounce off the 50-period moving average on the S&P. It's testing the 50, so is the NASDAQ. But there is now a 95% chance that on Monday or Tuesday, and Monday, I believe the market is open on the holiday, but in the next two trading sessions, there is a 95% chance you're going to get some kind of bounce. You may go a whole lot lower before the bounce happens, but within 2 days, you should see an update on the S&P 500. This starts going parabolic, you throw that out the window. Go over here. When you start going parabolic like this and seeing these massive wide range bars showing total volatility, that's when it doesn't work. But based on the historical data, 95% chance we'll get an update. That doesn't mean the sell-off's over. That just means we get a bounce. 95% chance we get one in two sessions, 5% chance we don't. Sell-off is being validated by a bunch of sell signals. And check back on Sunday. I'm going to be showing you why the stock market just may have peaked on Thursday. But my swing trend signals turning bearish right here. We're getting a reversal bar. We're getting a sell signal. It's the first time it's turned bearish since we got the higher low and higher high. S&P daily. All my signals turning back to bearish, validating the breakdown of the May 2025 trend line. Got a sell signal here. Consistently bullish, except for the sell-off in July down to the May 1st low, and then it reverted right back to bullish. Same thing, NASDAQ going bearish again. NASDAQ had a little bit more volatility throughout August, but then reverted back to bullish with the September run-up, October high. Now, again, everything turning bearish with these divergences. S&P, again, signals consistently bullish except for at the beginning of August. now turning back to bearish, validating the sell-off on Friday. And a similar signal back over here when we began to peak, right after we peaked, I should say, in February, and that led to the collapse down to the April low. Same thing for the NASDAQ, signals turning back to bearish. Again, a little bit more volatility throughout the summer than the S&P, but signals now turning back to bearish. Same thing here, S&P 500, signals turning back to bearish. Again, consistently bullish, except here, signals turn bearish right after the higher low, the higher high, turned bearish right after the February high and got the decline. Consistently bullish, except for this area here in early August. The signals did a really, really good job. Now they're turning back to bearish. We wiped out 1 month's worth of gains in one day. Signals bearish, turning bearish for NASDAQ. Again, a little bit more volatility throughout the summer than the S&P. We had a 4.28% drop. Signals reverted back to bullish, now turning back to bearish. Again, higher low, the higher high on the NASDAQ here, and the turn back in February. Did a good job there. So again, we'll see just how low do we go, and have we now topped? All my signals turning back to bearish today. S&P here has been bullish here throughout the entire advance. NASDAQ 100 here turning bearish, and here turning bearish here. A little bit of volatility in the summer, but turning back to bearish here again. Down here nailing the bottom, consistently bullish up until the summer, and then pushing on higher to September, October, forming a massive divergence on indicators. So again, we're likely reversing here for either a pullback or possibly a top. Nailing the turn back over here at the February peak, nailing the bottom back over here, likely nailing the top right here in October. And signals here, this is a good signal to follow. Create my own indicators, and this is one of my best signals. And for my friends trading the Russell, you got the signal there on the Russell. We got it on the Dow. We've got that Dow theory sell signal, Dow daily chart here. And here, the S&P 500, this is absolutely amazing. Again, nailing the February top, nailing the April bottom. Look at that. We only had one downturn during the summer here. Turned back to bullish, remained consistently bullish through August, on into the September and October rally. Now turning back to bearish, very similar to what we had back over here at the February 2025 peak. Absolutely incredible signals. Now, the seasonality has been wrong. These signals have been very, very accurate. It would be wise to follow these signals closely in the future. They are so stinking accurate. Again, nailing the February top, nailing the April bottom, and now this turn here, a little bit of volatility there in the summer. Absolutely incredible. Now check back on Sunday. I am going to do a video talking about how this may be a top. I'm going to show you some absolutely amazing things. If you did not watch my video from Thursday, I show all the crash signals. I go through them. There's a parade of crash signals that were flashing to get this move today. I got a lot of positive feedback going through all of those signals. I'll try to review them in the near future again and show you what's going on and update it. But watch that video, and then make sure you watch my Sunday video. Very important video. Make sure you watch this video all the way through. Find this information useful, please support the channel. Please let me know that you like my indicators, you like my charts. I don't have any sponsors, just a direct relationship with you. If you could take a moment to help out, I would really, really appreciate it. I just put it all out there and just ask that you do what you can to help out, rather than getting sponsors and selling you something. I don't want to do that. You could just follow the link below. Anything helps. It's a secured site. You could take a moment to do that right now. I would really, really appreciate it. I thank you for your consideration for that. Bitcoin lost 10% today. It's rebounding right now back up, but from the high to the low in one day, it dropped 10%. Much more than that from the highs, the sell signals that were triggered a few days ago on Bitcoin. Talked about those in my Bitcoin update. Now we're seeing them on the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. Now down 870, almost 879 points. But this time it's different. We're talking about the Dow theory sell signal. Oh, and all the other warning signs I talked about in yesterday's update. If you didn't watch yesterday's update, go watch it. Crash signals were flashing. They're now playing out. S&P down 2.71%. And SPY and after hours and S&P futures, again, they're down another nearly 0.5% in after hours. S&P down 182 points to close at 65.52. NASDAQ down over 3.5%, 3.56. But we were told that wasn't going to happen. No possible way. We wiped out in one day, we wiped out a month of gains in one day. Oh, who told you that could happen? What did I say earlier in the week? I said you could get a very ugly bar that could wipe out days or weeks of gains in a day or two. I talked about that earlier in the week. Oh, what's happening? That's happening. People get so complacent. They get so bearish at the bottom, and they get so bullish at the top. Russell down 3%. VIX surged by nearly 32%. Great Scott, did you hear what I just said? I've been warning you about the VIX. I've warned you about the MACD. I've warned you about the tightening bands. I've warned you about that the warning signs were there on the VIX that it was about to surge in volatility. And oh, gee, what happened? Peak a stinking boo. We rise by 32% in one day. The VIX rose 5.23 up to closed at 21.66. Now we're getting a little wake-up call to 2 and 4 the herd. We're told this wasn't going to happen. No possible way could it happen. And yet it's happening. People think because it doesn't happen immediately, because the market takes its time doing what it's doing with divergences and with the crash signals setting up. It hasn't happened yet, so it's not going to happen. And this is getting started. You got people on the internet saying, oh, buy the dip, it's already over. You got people saying that for the stock market. You got people saying that for Bitcoin. That's how far gone these people are. Going to get a big correction. It's either going to be, I should say a big sell-off, and it's either going to be a big correction or the market's now topped and we're reversing. And that is possible. Do not rule that out. The blow-off top could be done. Okay, we had China put these, impose strict export controls on rare earths, playing games ahead of, meeting with Trump and the talks, negotiations that are taking place, announcing these restrictions, trying to have leverage with the talks, trying to play Trump. It's not going to work. Trying to play Treasury Secretary Bessent. Not going to work. This is what China does. China plays games. China lies. China makes deals and then they break the deals. That's a communist Chinese party. But what can you expect from people that do the atrocities that they do to their very own people? I love the Chinese people and what the Communist Party is doing to the Chinese people and the human right violations that they do. And Chinese workers have absolutely zero rights over there. So Trump cancels this meeting. They're going to have this meeting between the two presidents, cancels it and says, hey, going to play games? Okay, you're going to get a massive increase on tariffs. Let's cancel the meeting. Again, back before negotiations started, way back yonder, person after person tell me there's no way China's going to come to the negotiating table. China doesn't need the U.S. Yes, they do. The people saying that are oblivious to what's going on. You know, Trump's going to wake them up. It's okay. You want to go into a depression? Have at it. Their economy is collapsing over there. So Trump, again, we are looking for a catalyst. This is one of it. We're also seeing now the layoffs begin. That's another part. Trump's threatening a massive tariff hike, 100% tariff on China if they're going to impose restrictions on rare earths. Now, in case you don't know, again, China, they have a history of either making deals or making promises, and then they lie and they don't keep their word. We had this happen back in 2018. They made a deal, first phase of the tariff deal, and they didn't keep their word. It was paper. It was nothing. They lied. They have a history. Here's a headline coming up right now. Trump says a lot of federal workers are being laid off during the government shutdown. Oh, gee, who told you that was going to happen? You got these two issues going on right now. I mean, for goodness sakes, Bitcoin's dropped 10% from the height of from the open to the levels that we're at right now. Friday session, it was down 10%. It's recovering. We already got the sell signals on Bitcoin. Now we're getting them on the S&P and the NASDAQ. Oh, no, that's not going to happen. This time is different. Today, we wiped out 1 month's worth of gains in one day. 1 month's worth of gains. I told you, get a very big, ugly, nasty bar, maybe a couple of them. Completely wipe out the gains. the last several days or the last several weeks. This is what I've told you. We have the crash signals that were flashing, and I went through them, many of them, yesterday, Thursday's update. So we now have Trump threatening this massive tariff hike with China. Again, let me just say this. I think that the United States should end negotiations with China. They play too many games. They lie too much. And then when you make a deal with them, they don't keep it. They have a history of doing this. The Communist Chinese Party they lie. They do not keep their word. Make a deal with them. You have no idea if they're going to keep it, which they probably won't, as we have found out in the past, back in 2018 and 19, the last time around. The United States should impose tariffs on China and end all talks and be done with it. That's what I think they should do. I think that might end up happening. China's finding out right now, or they're about to find out. You mess around, you're going to find out. China needs the United States a whole lot more than the United States needs China. Trump's sending a loud message. Okay, you want to go into a depression? Have at it. Go ahead. Your economy is already in. It's already a train wreck over there. You don't hear much news about it unless you look for it, but it's out there. And gee, oh, surprise, surprise. Trump says a lot of federal workers are being laid off during the government shutdown. Day 10 of the shutdown, the Trump administration began laying off federal workers across a wide range of agencies on Friday. Today, the 10th day of the shutdown, the government shutdown. Friday, Trump said that a number of federal workers will be laid off. He said it'll be a lot. And as I've been warning you, the permanent job cuts are different from the furloughed government workers. The furloughed employees will return to their jobs after the government shutdown ends. The layoffs will not. I've been warning you. How does Wall Street respond to that with an already fragile labor market? Concerns about consumer spending. You've got 750,000 employees, federal employees furloughed, and now you're going to have a bunch of them on the chopping block. That could impact the labor market. That could impact consumer spending. That could impact the GDP. So the government shutdown in and of itself could impact the GDP, as the Treasury Secretary has already said. This chart on X, just before the big sell-off, again, S&P down over about 2.71% there. It's down in after hours right now with SPY, another 0.5% or so. But again, this time it's different. Now, I've talked about the 2018 trend line. We've overthrown that trend line. And again, that's why you're at risk of now potentially this being a top today. There's risk of that being a top. Because again, I've talked about this trend line, and I've talked about this trend line a very long time. My long-term channel came to just right underneath the upper boundary. If you draw a parallel boundary connecting the 2020 low, the 2022 low, the 2023 low, this was our April 2025 low. And I've talked about this at great length and detail, and we bounced off that and horizontal support. And that's, I called a bottom back on April 7th. Now, I thought we'd get more of a pullback before reaching this trend line. We came to just under it and didn't get much of a pullback in the summer. NASDAQ dropped 4.28%, S&P just about 2.20%. Signals turned back to bullish in September for the NASDAQ. They remained bullish during the August decline for most of August for the S&P, but we've come right up to this trend line from the 2023 low. I've talked about this trend line, and we've slammed right into it, and we came to just under this trend line right here. So that tells me, hey, either going to get a pullback, go up and hit this trend line one more time, or you've topped, one or the other. Again, do not rule out that we are topping right now. It's very, very possible. You have the S&P hitting this trend line. And all I've done is I've taken this trend line from all these lows, 2020, 2022, 2023, and 2025, drawn a parallel boundary from the 2022 top, and here you are, you're just underneath it, just a fraction under it, but you did slam into that trend line from the 2023 low, the blue trend line there. Look at this chart right before the sell-off. Warning, the crash signals have flashed, slamming into major resistance. Shortly thereafter, Trump canceled his meeting with China. and threatened 100% tariffs on China. And remember, Trump's saying that by November 1st, China can have an additional 100% tariff on it above and beyond that what they are currently paying. In one day, the S&P wiped out 1 month of gains in one day. This is what I talked to you about earlier in the week. I told you we can get a big, nasty red bar, wipes out days or weeks of gains in one day. Where I told you can see it over a couple of days, just totally wipe out the rally that we've had, end up wiping out several months of gains very, very quickly. Today, we were down 2.70%. NASDAQ was down 3.5%. We wiped out all the gains over the last month. Here on Friday, it is October 10th. We wiped out all the gains back to the September 10th close right there. All of those gains were wiped out with one big swoop. But this time it's different. Yesterday, I was reading comments on social media, and people were just oblivious. Past week, I read the comment section of people, anybody that posted anything slightly negative, and I read the comments, and they were just laughing and mocking at anybody that could possibly believe that for the weekends we would get a massive reversal bar or a sell-off. That's what the herd does. They get so bullish at tops and so bearish at bottoms. We have wiped out nearly all the September gains. Still a little bit left down here, but again, with one swoop, we've wiped out a month's worth of gains. I would not ignore that. I warned you in Thursday's video. I warned you earlier in the week. I warned you going into this week that if we end up turning off of the blue trend line, which, what do? We turned off the blue trend line. That goes back to the 2023 low. That if we came back down and we took out the black trend line from the May low, you touched it 6 times. Now we're breaking it. It was the May low. It was the June low. It was the August 1st low. It was the low here. We moved to just towards it. We exceeded it right here, but then closed right at it. And then we tagged it here for the September run-up. Before the October run-up. Run-up formed a divergence on the indicators like the RSI and the Awesome Oscillator, and I've talked about this at great length and detail, but one big swoop. You've taken out a month's worth of gains, and you have broken this trend line. This trend line breaking now opens the door for either this being a top at the upper boundary of this red trend line. Again, we were just slightly underneath it. That could mark a top, or you get a pullback and you go back get one more rally. Listen to me carefully. It is very possible we just topped. It is very possible this is the stock market top. I warned you yesterday, we got a 9 count. These other 9 and 13 counts have marked either sideways moves or pullbacks. This count took place with getting a 9 count in the weekly time frame. The S&P and NASDAQ, I told you that is likely going to produce a reversal. This sell-off we've had on Friday, that couldn't be true because this time it's different. And then I warned you about the 9-9 signal in the weekly time frame on the S&P 500. And by the way, if I include the shadow low right here, meaning that we don't quite touch the trend line here from the 2023 low, we don't touch this trend line right here, 2023, just include this shadow, then we're right at that upper boundary of the channel. So again, there is a very good chance we are topping. You got a 9 count here. We got an immediate trend extension rather than a pullback, and you've got a 9-9 reversal pattern. What's happening right now? We're reversing. Just ignore that because this time it's different. Right now on social media, I've already seen people on social media saying the bottom's in, buy the dip, it's over. The sell-off just started. We just did major technical damage. I told you that 9 bar could be the high of the count, or we could go a little higher and get the reversal bar. We went just a little bit higher, but before the week ended, we got a reversal bar. You now have the breaking of the black trend line, the reversal bar, rejection at the 2023 trend line from the 2023 low, the blue trend line, and the upper boundary here. So again, got a very good chance that the top is in. This is the trend line that I was looking for the S&P 500 to reach. This is the NASDAQ weekly chart. This is the trend line from the 2020 low here, the black trend line. We overthrew it slightly. This is our linear scaling, and we slammed into the trend line, the broadening formation in the daily time frame with our log scaling, slightly overthrew that, reversed off of 2020 trend line here and the upper boundary of the broadening formation with the log scaling and here with the linear scaling. Again, here in the weekly time frame, we've got a 9-9 reversal signal. Now you've got a bearish engulfing candlestick. We moved higher on NASDAQ and we closed lower, completely engulfing the previous week's bar. That is a reversal bar. Next week it will likely be confirmed. And again, you can see some real ugly red bars here. We've just wiped out weeks of gains. You see something like this back in February. We had just 4 weeks straight of selling. Tried to get one rebound up here and a little rebound, and then just continued the selling. Over here, you had the reversal bar, and then 3 weeks that followed. So you had 4 weeks after the high of just complete selling. You see something like that happen. 9-9 signals very well could be marking a top here for the NASDAQ, and again, the broadening formation very well could be done. Great Scott, did you hear what I just said? The NASDAQ could have topped this week. What happened? NASDAQ got that 9 count with the S&P yesterday. I told you it was a possible hanging man. It's now confirmed. We need to follow through. The VIX is predicting that we'll get a bounce in the next 2 trading sessions. You might go a whole lot lower before you get the bounce, so keep that in mind. The NASDAQ 100 down 3.5% today, wiping out nearly 1 month's worth of gains all the way back to September 15th. The S&P going back to September 10th, wiping it out with one big swoop. But this time it's different. This isn't going to happen. We had the 9-9 signal in the weekly time frame. You get the 9-9 here in the daily with the September and October rallies. And now, again, we're giving back those gains. Eventually, we'll come back, wipe out the gains from over the summer. Let me say this again. I've talked about the broadening formation. Here it is. Here's the broadening formation for the NASDAQ. And again, we're turning off. We just slightly overthrew that upper boundary of the broadening formation. The last time we hit this trend line, this goes back to the 2020 low, as I've talked about. When we hit it in July, you dropped nearly 16%. You hit it again here. In December of 2024, you went sideways, you peaked in February, you formed a divergence on indicators like the RSI up here, and you ended up dropping nearly 26%. Here, if we just take the smaller of the two numbers, if we just drop 5.86%, I believe it is what it was, you're dropping back down to the 200 period moving average to a 50% retracement. This is a reversal pattern. It very well could be done. I have 2 scenarios. One is we're topping right here and right now. The other is that we sell off and that we go get one more final high. But again, it does look like a possible 5-leg push higher. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, that's one of my Elliott wave counts if the top is in. And this formation is now complete for the NASDAQ 100. Massive broadening formation. This is a reversal pattern. But if we come down here, I want to show you the Fibonacci retracements. If we just get a drop similar to this right here, that takes us back towards the black line there, the 200 period moving average. Let me show you. If we just take the drop that we had with that first downward move in the broadening formation, a nearly 16% drop, 15.86%, I believe to be exact, you're moving back towards a 50% retracement here of this entire advance from this low to this high. You're moving towards the 50% retracement, and you're moving towards beyond the 200 period moving average. You're moving towards that 200 period moving average, and again, likely dropping below it. Now, listen, it's very possible that we are topping, and even if we get a retracement, you could just rally back up and still get a lower high and eventually make your way down to the April low. If you do move towards it, the S&P has a possible head and shoulders. We got the broadening formation on NVIDIA and the broadening formation for the NASDAQ 100. You're coming down towards the 50-period moving average. You're likely going to take it out. 50, we've been above it. In a bullish phase, you drop below the 50-period moving average. You move into a warning phase. Drop below the 200 period, you start moving into a distribution phase. Some kind of sell-off if we are topping, some kind of sell-off towards the 200 period or beyond it. If we have topped, When we rally back up, the 50 period rolling over and dropping will act as resistance. But just pay attention to these Fibonacci retracements, and especially the 50% retracement here. That's just if we drop nearly 16% like we did with the first leg down of the broadening formation. We may drop more. If we just go back to the 200 period moving average, you're looking at 13.5%. 13.5% back to the 200 period moving average. Today we lost 3.5%. Just some things here. If we do move beyond the 50% retracement under the 200 period moving average, you have the golden pocket down here between the 61.8 Fibonacci and the 78.6 Fibonacci to be watching. That's at 19,000, just under 19,900 for the 61.8 Fibonacci. The 78.6 Fibonacci is just near the 18,400 area for the NASDAQ. If the S&P 500 drops down, here's the S&P 500 daily chart. If it drops down to 10%, which is what it did in July of 2024, was that first leg down in the broadening formation on the NASDAQ. It dropped 10%. If it does that, you're dropping down to or towards the 200 period moving average, towards the 38.2 Fibonacci there at 6,029. Horizontal support at the February high is at 6147, that 6150 area. So again, some levels to be watching. We've come right down to the 50 period moving average. See if we try to break that level or try to bounce off that level. VIX is predicting we will get a bounce within the next 2 trading sessions. And quickly, below the 200 period, you have your 50% retracement of 5,800. You've got the 61.8 Fibonacci and the 78.6 Fibonacci, the golden pocket down in here. 55.71 for 61.8 Fibonacci, 78.6 Fibonacci at the 5250 area. Massive broadening formation on the NASDAQ and NVIDIA. If we begin to see a wrecking ball taken to the stock market, we very well could see a head and shoulder setup if we end up giving back 100% retracement, which, I warned you, is possible. We're going to get a collapse in the market, and if this is the top, we're going to collapse and the Fed is going to begin to panic. And the Fed will start doing jumbo cuts. That's what has happened in the past. But you do have a possible head and shoulders formation if you make your way all the way back here and just get something really, really ugly. You can drop back down here. The Fed panics. We get a massive rally back up for a right shoulder. Don't rule that out. That's certainly possible. But we'll be watching to see, do we find support at one of these Fibonacci levels? Do we find support at the 200 period or horizontal support? Or do we try to give it all back? If we have topped, expect a collapse. If we have topped, expect a crash, a massive crash that will be bigger than this 21% sell-off. That's why I'm telling you, we could be headed back towards it. If we see a stock market crash, the Fed's going to panic, and they're going to begin to slash rates and do jumbo cuts. If we come back down to this low, you're looking at a 29% collapse in the stock market, bigger than the 21% that we've seen over here. So just some Fibonacci levels to be aware of. The moving averages, our 200 period moving averages.